So what was the first thing that you wanted to know about?
So our first question, the question is, it doesn't matter how hard I exercise, the weight gain around the middle just won't burn off. So why do we gain weight around the middle, and why can't we just exercise harder like we used to just burn it away?
So one of the things that happens when we get into menopause or perimenopause, so you have your regular cycle of how your hormones work. So let me just grab my little pen here. So we have our cycles of our estrogen and progesterone. So I don't know if you can see that, that's just a brief outline. So when we have our normal periods, it's like estrogen rises and then it will kind of decline, and then progesterone takes over. And so the first thing that's really important to understand or realize is that the role that estrogen plays. So we like to say that it's a hormone that excites and it kind of like gets things going. It also makes things kind of plump. Estrogen is good for fertility. There are different types of estrogen as well. So estrogen is made in your ovaries, in your fat cells, and your adrenal glands. And actually, one of the important ones is your adrenal glands, and I'll come back to why in a moment. So when we then get into towards the end of our periods, kind of week 2 and just after, then actually progesterone is on the increase. So progesterone is our calming hormone. And so that's kind of like a good time when progesterone helps to level things out. When it comes to weight gain, so one of the things that estrogen helps with is to regulate our body fat. It also helps with female reproduction, our cardiovascular health, building bones, cellular health, and also it helps to regulate the metabolism of our glucose, so sugar, blood sugars, and also cells. So the kind of like functioning and metabolism of our cellular health. So it's very important, and believe it or not, every cell has an estrogen receptor. So not just women, but men as well. So that tells you like the body needs estrogen. It's a good thing to have, but it's when we have it in excess. So in terms of there are different types of estrogen. So you have estrogen that's called estradiol, and that is important for fertility. Then you have estrol, which is important for pregnancy. So it's like a variation on a thing. And then you've got another type of estrogen, which is called estrone, and that's the type of estrogen that's around when we're talking about menopause. Now, lots of you out there might be thinking, well, menopause, 50-ish, don't really have to be thinking about that. But actually, in terms of perimenopause, I'm now kind of 49, just coming up to 50. And I think within the last year or COVID, that was my cue. COVID hit, and then I started seeing shifts and changes in my period, extra stressors. But actually, if you can start to think about what you're putting into your body and how much stress there is in your life around 35 or onwards, then that's fantastic, because actually those hormonal changes that lead you to menopause actually start from 35 onwards. So even though it's like 50, unless you happen to be, because of medical reasons or anything, have started your menopause early, then actually preparing so that you then have a smoother transition is a good idea.
So one of the comments that had been made is that someone had been told by a health professional that they're storing the fat around the stomach because we're holding estrogen, and that's meant to happen, or there was a bit of confusion about that, whether that was meant to happen or just someone interpreting information incorrectly. So is that the case, or is that just a myth that it's going to our stomachs because it's estrogen going there, or is that?
So it actually, so the fat can get stored in a variety of places. So you can experience weight gain on the upper chest, triceps, and also mid-back, top of the hips, stomach, knees, calves, and thighs. And it's not just estrogen, it's what is happening with the balance of your hormones. So this is where your blood sugar levels, here's one I prepared earlier. So this is where your blood sugar levels are really important, along with the estrogen, because remember we said that that's important to help with the metabolism. When it comes to what you're eating, so it's like when you eat, your insulin levels go up, and then the body's like, produce more insulin, or the blood sugar levels go up, and so the body will produce more insulin and bring your blood sugar levels down. If we're eating things that have more carbohydrate or sugar content, not just refined sugars, but it's also the balance of what you eat. So if you're not eating a lot of protein and you're eating loads of kind of veg and the starchy carbs, then that's actually, the body will break things down to make it into sugar to distribute it in different places. So if there's too much and then the insulin peaks and it drops down, then your body's like, right, okay, well, now we're kind of getting hungry and we need to lift those blood sugars. So I'm going to push adrenaline and cortisol into your system to give you that kind of like, I need to go and hunt for food, or just that drive and that energy. And then the roller coaster starts, so up and down and up and down. The reason that's important in terms of the weight gain and the fat storage is when your adrenaline and body is making cortisol, then yes, we tend to see that excess fat in the tummy. Cortisol is, in terms of, I'm going to rub this one out. When your body is making hormones, the most important thing in your body, apart from cholesterol, is actually your adrenals. So adrenals are the ones kind of like at the top of the tree that make your cholesterol, so they're important. And then they can either go along and then make you some aldosterone, which is good for helping with water balance, water regulation, and then it can make your estrogen, growth hormone, and then from there the body makes I want to say progesterone. It's jumped out of my brain at the moment. So it can make progesterone. There's another one at upper level from there, so apologies, it will jump into my brain in a moment. But what happens is your body won't make progesterone, which is that karma hormone, and cortisol. So it's what we call the pregnenolone. You see, I knew it would jump into my brain. It makes, so where I said here, progesterone, that's pregnenolone. So pregnenolone is like EP1, and then from pregnenolone, you can either have your progesterone, karma hormone, or you can have your, let's get going, cortisol. So if your hectic lifestyle, don't have a lot of downtime and you're kind of wired and doing loads, then the body's going to just keep making more cortisol. That in turn is kind of more glucose in the system. So it's like excite, and then the body's like, well, I can't use all of that. I'm going to have to store it. So it gets stored as fat. And so that's where we get the fat storage from. So that's something that's important, is looking at what's happening with my stressors. So when the body's producing cortisol and that adrenaline, then it goes, oh, we need it. There's some kind of emergency in our environment. So I need to pump more cortisol and glucose, if you like, the sugar, so that you can get away from that stressing thing. And then we can stop and calm down. So if you like, your adrenaline is the quick burst, get away straight away. Your cortisol is more, if that stressor, that thing goes on long. So it's almost like that low line. Then your body's just going to keep pumping. And then normally the stressor would stop, whatever it is, and then we can have more of the calming hormone. Then the body can start burning the proper bits of fat. But unless we have the opportunity for that pregnenolone or Also think of it as your parasympathetic nervous system. So when that kicks in, then we're able to chill, rest, and digest. So that's the other thing, is that the sympathetic nervous system, or if you think of that with the estrogen, the exciter, if everything's like go, 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 do, even if you like just spend a day sitting on your bum on the computer, or you don't feel like you're racing around, those stressors are in our environment. So it could be noise, it could be emotional stress, mental stress, just work stress. That all adds an imbalance to the system. Then you put onto that equation something called Xenoestrogens. Maybe some people might pronounce it Xenoestrogens. It's an X anyway. So xeno just means foreign. So xenoestrogens mimic estrogen. So they look like, it's like, I might look like an estrogen, but I'm not. I'm going to just disguise myself. So then when you get those xenoestrogens, then the body's just like, oh, there's another thing here. And how do I deal with that? It kind of looks the same, but it isn't. And so we get extra toxins of xenoestrogens building up in our bodies. And they can have an impact on the gut because we've got estrogens in our microbiome. Good. But then again, if there's too much of the estrogens, normally the body would just go, okay, well, we can just detox and get rid of those. But if your liver system is already struggling with the toxicity because there's too much, and those xenoestrogens can come from pollution around us, depending on any potions and creams that you put on your body, put in your body, poor diet, that also has an impact. So that is then more estrogen like in your system. So the body's like, too much, what am I going to do with it? Store it. It's like, we'll store it here, we'll store it there. And then you're like, oh my God, I need to exercise more. So you exercise more and the body's like, I'm already stressed and under so much load. And then you go and dump more. So it's like more cortisol, more cortisol. And then rather than losing the weight, the body's just like, store the fat, store, we need more glucose. And then it's like a vicious circle.